Hey, greetings, mathematicians. What's up? What's up? So I've had a rough week. I can barely talk. So I'm going to try to get through this. I've been speaking for an hour. I just tutored two kids. Speaking for a couple of hours. Um, let's see if I can get through this. So we're at the part two of grade 7 of the Show Your Work Hardest Math Problems. Um, if I conk out, I'm going to just split this up into pieces. Normally these run for about an hour. For those of you catching on the replay, you can pause and then watch how I solve a particular question. I have hundreds of these problems on my site, GregsTutoringNYC.com / hardest dash math. All right. Okay. So with that, I'm going to keep the band to low because my throat is killing me. And let's see here. Here we go. We need that. And let's get rid of that. Wait a second. That didn't come back. Let's see here. I think it's that. Let's see. Is it that? Ah, there we go. Yeah. All right. So let's jump into this. All right. I'm going to be coughing and clearing my throat a lot through this. So prepare to take your earbuds off for a little bit. All right. So as you should all know by now, I like to, let me see if my tablet's going here. Okay, there we go. I like to look at the illustration first. So we have some sort of table that's broken down by subjects and the count of students. It's the number of students participating in something in tutoring. So they're getting four different subjects to being tutored on. I don't know what the question is, but often I like to total this up here and get the total number. Those are ugly numbers, so I actually don't want to do it here, but I'm going to real quick see that's 90 something and that's 90 something. So this is going to be about 200 is the magnitude of that, okay? I'm not too worried about those kind of things. I only point these out because I'm talking about these on the fly, and these are things you guys should know about as you're processing questions. And, I can do stuff like, I don't know if this is going to be a point of center question, where they're going to ask for the range, the max minus the min, like 40 is the min and 58 is the max, and you subtract that, you might get 48. That might be the question, and that's the end of it. I'm just trying to look at the illustration as fast as I can to try to grok something out of it, so that when I finally get to the words can be complex, confusing. The words can also start distorting the way you're looking at the problem. So I like to use the illustration always as my focus and my point of center, speaking of points of center, so that I can kind of stay, and that's my my weight to keep me down from wiggling when I start saying the words and they start distracting my brain. Okay, so for that we have the illustration. So we're going to go to the words now. An after-school program offers tutoring for different subjects. These are the 4 subjects. Okay, during the last month, a teacher recorded the number of students who participated in tutoring in each subject as shown below. So 40 did math, 47 did English, 58 did history, 55 did science. Okay, so we have processed the words up here. We processed the illustration, and you can give it another look-see, because as much as I want the illustration to give me my first sense of the question, once I start reading the words, I kind of want to go back to the illustration real quick and see if it confirms what I thought. Okay, because you want to understand it. And the question being asked, 52, it's not just about the words; it's about everything they're presenting to you. Okay, so then it says explain. So you're going to have to write some words. How the teacher could use the data to predict about, not exactly, how many of the next 100 students will be participating in the math tutoring. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to get rid of all the scribbles I wrote here, so we kind of have a clean slate to work with, because the other stuff was just pointing out things. And it's good to have a non-cluttered workspace, if you will, when you're working on math questions. Okay. On the same note, you guys should be writing stuff down. Okay. So we're gonna explain about how many. So that's the total of the next 100 students will be participating. So how many out of 100? That's the English. How many over 100? Okay. In this case, I've mentioned in other streams that they often give a thing at the bottom where it might say like answer dollars or answer like notebooks. Okay. In this case, they're not giving us that hint. So we have to grok that and figure that out ourselves. Okay. So that's the mapping. So we have to figure out how many of the next 100 students will participate in math. Okay. How many math over 100? That's important. If you leave out the math, you're not solving the same problem. Okay? So what we need to do is figure out how many students we hear, what the ratio of the math was. So we're going to have 40 out of all students. Okay? So now we actually have to do that addition. I thought it was 200. So let's see. We have 7 plus 8 is 15 plus the 5 is 20. 0, carry my 2. 4, 5, 6. Plus the 4 is 10, and 5 plus 5 is 10. I got 20. Okay? However, you want to check that. So what we get is 40 out of 200 students were math students. Okay? We can simplify that to be, what is that, 1/5, 1 out of every 5. Okay? But you can also notice they're not asking you to simplify it. They're asking you to get it out of 100. In other words, they're asking you, what is the percent? X% here out of 100. So we can do the cross product and get 40 times 100 equals 200x. Okay, by the time we solve for x, we're going to get x is equal to 20. Okay, I think you can all do that. If you can't, please email me. My email is at the bottom of the screen, GregsTutoringNYC@gmail.com. And while you're at it, please like and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel because I have a lot of cool, awesome stuff for you guys. And it's free. And like it because it helps the channel, which indirectly helps you guys. It also supports me and encourages me to continue doing these. All right? So we get 20. So it would be 20 out of 100. If you want, that's 20%. Okay. It also says how many of the next 100. So you could say 1/5 of the next 100 if you want. Okay. But they're asking how many of the next 100. They're really asking for that 20. 20 more students. How many students out of 100? All right. So what we did was this is a part versus a total, which is a ratio. And then when we set it up to be over the 100, we're doing a proportion, right? So this involves some multiplication, some division, just some rationalization through this all, okay? Some students leave out this math part, okay? So if it's how many will participate in the tutoring per subject, basically, then it's going to be 200 is the total, divided by 4. Okay, there's 4 subjects. That will give us 50. So generally speaking, out of all the classes, there's going to be 50 students per class on average. But that is not the question. Okay, that's not the question. And by the way, the word about here, let me just change the color slightly for 1 second so that we're clear what we're talking about here. This word about right here, because this is about probability. We're making a guess. There's no guarantee that there will be 20 math students out of 100 next year or whatever they do it again. Okay? They're just making an estimate. Oh, this year there was 40 out of 200. So next year there could end up being like 200 out of 200. Maybe all the students will register for the math. But if you were to hedge your bets and make a plan and be pragmatic about it and so on, giving nothing else has happened, if it's just normal routine, then about 20%, 20 out of 100, is going to get that, okay? So when you have to do the explanation here, the explanation isn't just words. First of all, you have to solve this. You have to end up with the 20, right? If you don't end up with the 20, you have no explanation. So once you get to 20, you're going to reason it out. Okay? If there's 40 per 200, then there's 20 per 100. All right? So that's how we can use this data. We're going to find out, oh, there's 4 classes. Let's figure out the ratio of the math students, that was the part, to the total students. Okay? The math to the total. All right? And then once we get that, we can figure it out. We can also do that if it was against 10 students. Then it would be 2, because it's the same ratio. 2/10 is the same as 1/5 is the same as 20 over 100. Okay? There's another thing here. So this here was only mentioned because some students solved this question that way. It is not the solution to this problem. The other thing we could have done was set up getting another point of center, which was the median. So for that, we would order these 40, 47, 55, and 58. So the median is right here between these two. Normally, you would take the 2 center numbers there, 45 and 47, add them. What do we get there? 92? No, we get 102, right? And divide it by the number of things there, which is 2. So we get 61. So 61 is the median number. That's not what they're asking us either. Some students kind of don't know how to solve this. They don't know where to go. So they're just like, oh, that sounds good. I think I heard this one day in class. And they may even try for the median and quite not get what the median is. And just trying to pull out of their head things. So just take it a sentence at a time. Start from the illustration. Make sense of it. Go read the top words. Add that to your understanding. Read the bottom words. Add that to your understanding. Then ask yourself, what the heck are they asking me? Okay? So it was about how many math. Okay? About how many math out of 100. Well, the table shows us out of 200. So all we really have to do is take it in half. So I did the cross product over here. Okay? Once we set up 40 over 100, 40 out of 200, and I did how many out of 100? It should just be clear that that's divided by 2, and then that's divided by 2. So it should just leap out at you that it's 20. This is our numeracy, our proficiency, our no hesitation math, our sense of numbers, our number sense, our fluidity, these kind of things. That's what these questions are about. Remember, in addition to the actual problem, like the raw question number 52 and the actual math you see on the screen, the test writer is not sitting there and saying like, well, I want to give an example with 40 over 20, 200. No, they're saying, what concept do we want to test here? We want to test part of a whole. Okay? We want to test ratio. We want to test percent. We want to test proportion. How about we add all those together into some sort of question that combines a valid use of the math that you know, right? The questions are not just about applying a formula or just raw knowledge that you memorize, right? It's awesome to be able to have a test on the multiplication table and get 100% correct. But the multiplication table in and of itself is just one aspect of all of math and things like that. And we have to know how to use it in the right contexts and things like that, okay? So that's where we're going here. So this is not about an average. It was not about a median. It was about applying the 40 over the 200, which is a ratio, a part over the whole, the math over the total, and applying it to a different total. The total on the illustration is 200. The total they want you to do it for is 100. Okay? All right. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure we're going live here good. And let me shift something up because I have something blocking a tab here on my screen. And wait a second. I think I just lost. No, I didn't. Okay, there it is. All right. So let's go to the next question. That was 52. There's about 10 questions here anyway. So I'm probably going to spin some of these off. This is a classic question that a lot of students get wrong. So I actually think I'm going to spin this off. It's not so much as hard. It's just so classic that I think I'm just going to spin it off by itself. So that's 53. 54. Give me a second to peek at that. Okay. Let's try to give that a shot. So Mr. Hernandez has $100 to spend, okay, on parking and admission. To the zoo, we don't care. The parking will cost $7, okay, and the tickets, which is the admission tickets, is going to be $15.50 per person. Okay, and that includes tax, so we don't need to worry about tax. In a way, we can almost cross this out because the per person number, it's not going to be $14.90 plus 20 cents tax. It's not going to be $15.50 plus something else. The tax is already included, so that's all we need to worry about per person. That's straight up number $15.50. Okay, write and solve an equation. Okay, if you get the right answer to this and you do not write an equation, you will not get full credit for it. You could argue, well, that's not fair. That's not math. No, but it's a question. It's asking you to do that. And part of solving these questions, including on the math part, is attention to detail. All right? So it's asking you to write an equation. It wants to know, because part of the concept of this solution to 54 is algebra. Okay? It wants to know that you didn't just backtrack the answer or guess the answer and happen to get it right. So if they're kind of forcing you to solve this question in an algebraic manner, okay? Because that's part of what an equation is about. So an equation has an equal sign. So it's normally something equals an expression. Okay, so that's the goal here. You're going to write that expression, equation, and then you're going to solve it. Okay, so what is it about? It's about determining the number of people that she can bring to the zoo, including herself. So if the number of people she can bring to his friends, they're all people. Herself is a people. A bunch of people are persons, right? So we can still use this $15.50 per person, okay? So she has $100 maximum, okay? So what we want to do is, if we figure out the $15.50 times the number of people, right? Cool. And apparently everybody's coming in the same car. It doesn't really say that, but it implies, let's say it's a bus, plus the $7, okay? All right? That's going to end up equaling her total of 100. Okay, now this one's slightly more cryptic because some of you students are supposed to know about inequalities. And you might say, well, how do we know that? The way the question is worded is it doesn't really lend to that. There might be a fraction of a person left over. But let's try to see. All right? So this is the part of writing our equation. The price per person times the number of people plus the parking should equal the total dollars. Okay? So that's basically what we're trying to solve there. Okay? And this should be NP, and I'll say this is K for parking. Okay, so that way our symbols don't get messed up. Okay, so all we really need to do now is solve that. All right, so we had 100 equals 1550 times P plus 7. If we subtract 7 from both sides, our goal is to get the variable P by itself. So we're going to remove 7. We get 93 equals 1550. And we're doing that by removing a term that doesn't involve P, which is the 7, a constant. Okay, now we're here, and we need to get P by itself still. So we're going to divide both sides by 1550. That cancels out. And this becomes 1550 here. So now we have an ugly division, basically, right? We have 1550 needing to be divided into 93. Okay, so you can kind of you have to make guesses, educated guesses. 9 seems too large. Let's just shoot for a middle number like 5. 5 times 15 is 75. Even if we add the 5 times 50, it's still too low. So it's either 6 or 7. 7 times 15 is already above 93. So the answer seems like it must be 6. So let's try it. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 5 is 30, 0, 3. Okay. 6 times 5 is 30, plus the 3 is 33. Carry my 3. 6 times 1 is 6, plus the 3 is 9. And then I have 1, 2 over, 1, 2 over. Bingo, 6 times, okay? So what does the 6 represent? It had better be the number of people. Okay, and we can plug it back in because we've had 1550 times 6. And really, I just did that over here. Okay, so that turns out to be $93. Okay, and now if we added the bus or the parking, we get 100. And Mrs. Hernandez lived happily ever after. Okay, so this was about writing an equation, which involves algebra. It was actually about solving it, to know how to solve combine like terms, do things across the equal sign, all these kind of things like that, and do that mapping. Always do your double checking. This one turned out easier because this was simple enough, but that's what we had to do there. All right. Interestingly, my throat seems to clear. I just drank some Diet Coke, so maybe that's a commercial for that, which I almost never drink Diet Coke. I think it tastes horrible, but I ended up with that. All right, so let's see. Was there a part 2 to this? No, there wasn't. And just as a side comment again, I'm going to change the color of this one more time because I like to keep pointing out wonderful, lovely things. This form here is actually y equals mx plus b. Okay, our y-intercept is constant. No matter how many people were there, the parking is still going to cost $7. Okay, and m is our slope, so it's a constant. There's 1550 per person. Okay, so if we were to graph that, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 will be up here. All right, so if you just show up with one person, you still have to pay for the parking. So this is 7, and it's going to start there. And it goes 1550 per person. So if this was one person, this is going to be 1550 plus 7. If it's 2, it's going to be 1550 times 2, so that's 31, right, plus the 7. And then again, it's dependent on your y. So these numbers here are my y. So it's probably going to be a little steeper than I do. It's going to be more like that. All right. That's going to be the equation of our line. This is linear at this point. There's always the $7. So basically, if we just go there and turn around, we just go and park and we actually don't get admitted. They reject us. We left our ID home or whatever requirements they had. We had to park, so we start out by paying for the parking. And then on top of that, it's the $15.50, depending on the number of people you have. So if it's 10 people, you will pay $155 plus the 7, so you'll pay $162, right? And if you graph that, if that was 2, the 6 would already be over here, and we'd be up here somewhere for the 10 people, right? So we basically have 10, comma, and then 1550 times 10 plus the 7, right? Because that's where we're starting everything from here. All right? So we're kind of smacking this problem around really good. That's the spiel. So this is really about making sure you know your algebra. Obviously, it involves addition and subtraction and division and multiplication as part of the arithmetic consequences of the cause and effect going on here to solve this. So again, you may have somehow figured out the answer was 6, but if you didn't write and solve an equation, then you haven't done what they're asking you to do. Okay, this is a test at a certain grade level. It doesn't want you to use less mature things, and it doesn't want you to use more mature things. It wants you to match what they're asking you to do here. All right, so that was 54. Okay, this is relating to, I believe, if I remember this question, relating to something we did a couple of lines ago. So we'll do this one, 55. 2 math classes. And in some ways, I like to look at this as the illustration. So let's look at that fast, quick. Sample of class A, I don't know if that's their heights or test scores, okay? Sample of class B, again, I don't know if it's heights, test scores, the age of their grandparents, the number of pennies they have in their pocket. I don't know what it represents, but something is going on between the two classes. It looks like the numbers are going from maxing at 100 and lowest one seems to be 60. I could be wrong. Again, we're just looking at this to grok a feel and figure out what kind of is going on here, okay? So 2 math classes took the same quiz. The scores of 10, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I'm just doing that to make sure I understand what I'm being asked. 10 randomly selected students from each class are listed below. Okay, so this is 10 student scores of this quiz randomly pulled from each class. Okay, based on the medians of the scores of each class, what inference would you make about the quiz scores for all students in class A compared to all students in B? And then explain your reasoning, justify it. Okay, so let's back off this a little bit a second. First of all, we have to get the median right here. Okay, so let's work on that. So to get the median, we need to order the numbers. We need to put the numbers in an order. Okay, so let me try to put the top numbers in the order. What I'm going to do is just write it above here because there's 10 here, and I can keep track that way. So I'm going to start with the lowest, 60. Cross that out gently. Don't cross enough so you can't see your numbers anymore if you make a mistake. There's 2 70s, 1, 2. Nope, there was a 65 as well. So there's a 65, a 70, a 70. Did I miss another one? There's a 75 here. Okay. There's an 80 and an 80. What do we have? 85 and 2 90s. Okay, so we got them all. Okay, so you get the median by going from end to end and trying to figure out the 2 center numbers. So let me just change the color of this. I can use a light color. Let me use this light green. So we have 60, 90, 65, 90, 70, 85, 70, 80. And we're left with 70. So let me change. So the median here is going to be what we did earlier. It's going to be 75 plus 80 divided by 2. So what is that? 155 over 2? Okay, which is 77.5. Okay, so the median of A, if I did this right, is 77.5. Okay, so we're going to go through the same process to do the sample in B. So 85, let me use a darker colored pencil because that didn't quite work. The lime green here might be too light for you guys, but you're going to have to suffer with that for now. 85 seems to be the lowest number. We have 2 of those. Nope, we have 3 of them. Okay, here's another one. 91, 2, 3. We have 3 90s. 1, 2, 3. I'm now noticing this is 75, so I'm going to put that over here. We're left with 95. We're left with 90. Okay. 95 and 100. Okay, so we're going to do that same way. Low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high. So we're left with 2 90s here. Okay, if I did that right, because there were 3 90s, right? Yep. So the median of this is 90, and the median of that was 77.5. Okay. All right, so now it says based on the medians, we just calculated that. So the median of B is higher than the median of A. Okay. So let's just try to note that B 90 was greater than A 77.5. Okay. So it says, based on that, what inference? So normally you're asked the inference in your English class. So they're trying to ask you, what is the significance that B's median was higher than A's median? Okay. And by the way, it wasn't just higher, that it was like 90 versus 89.99. Okay. There's enough difference here. There's what, 12.5 difference, which is a good enough percent to say like, hey, maybe class B did better, right? Okay. So they're asking you, that's one inference you could have pulled out of this, that class B did better than class A. Okay. That's just one choice. Another choice is, for some reason, class B was better prepared than class A. You can also flip that and say A did worse than class B. That's an inference. And also say that A was less prepared than B, because if they were more prepared, they would have done better and surpassed B. And so that's the reasoning. That's your explanation, that's your justification. And you're going to use the actual median, the actual data values, the 90 versus the 77.5, as your justification to prove what you're asserting as your inference. Okay? All right, so this kind of had a few levels to it. There may even be more valid answers to this, but for starters, if you didn't do the median right, then your inference kind of doesn't count because you're basing your inference on invalid results. Okay, so you have to do your median correctly, and then from there make some inference about this data. And the data isn't just going to be like, your inference can't be, oh, they were all numbers above 60 and lower than 100, right? That's a silly answer. And your answer can't be like, they all use the digits 7, 8, 9, and 0, right? That's that's not what they're asking you out of this, all right? So don't even go there. That's just airing your dirty laundry. That's like, I don't know how to solve this, so I'm going to throw anything in the answer. You're wasting your own time and you're wasting their time. You're better off exploring, again, sitting back, right? Just like the other question. They're not going to sit here and say like, oh, I want to use number 90 in a question. No, they're going to say, hey, let's test the students on median. And to see if they actually understand what it means, let's ask them to infer from whatever those values are, what its impact could mean. What does it really mean that something has a meaning of this and another has a median of that? What does it mean when that happens? That's what they're really asking you, right? What is the practical and pragmatic and some cases real and useful results of having the difference of these two values? And it also hits home as like, these are all points of center. A point of center is the min, the max, the range, the mode, the average, the arithmetic mean is also that, and the median. These are all numbers we use to try to figure out how numbers are interrelated to each other and things like that. Okay? So that's what you're being tested on here. Basically, the median. And what does a median mean is really what this question is asking of you. Okay? So that's 55. This one, if I remember right, this one most students got wrong, so I'm going to spin this out by itself as well. It's not quite a hard question, but it can be involved. So I'm going to skip that for now, and we're going to do that as a part B or a part C. Whoops, did I just zoom past that too quickly? Nope, that was 56. 57. How did students do on that? Enough students did well on this, so let me just give this out there. This has variability to it as well. What's important to notice, if I have A divided by B, okay, in particular A over F, and I'm using F because it's a fraction, if the denominator is a fraction, you multiply it by a reciprocal. So A over B, if I have A over B, this is the same as A over 1 times 1 over B, right? Because if you multiply the numerators, A times 1 is A, and 1 times B is B, okay? All right, so what we have is basically, and for this here, any number over 1 is itself. So there's another equivalence, which is this is A times 1 over B, okay? All right? So that's important because we have an A here and a B here. So basically what we have is 1/2 divided by minus 2/5. Okay, and I'm going too fast here. So let's look at the, whoa, what did I just do here? I think I may have just, give me 1 second. Okay, there you go. I lost my tab. So what we have is, we have this equation, we have this expression, and it says explain the steps needed to determine the value of the expression shown below. So we need to explain the steps. Okay, be sure to provide the correct value of the expression. So we need to solve this, but we need to talk about it. So the first explanation is going to involve all this. Okay? And then what we also have to consider within that is PEMDAS. And mathematically, that's the order of operations, right? Order of operations. Because PEMDAS is not really math, that's just a way to memorize part of the order of operation things. In fact, PEMDAS is broken in various ways. PEMDAS is why many students get these equations wrong because they actually never understood PEMDAS completely. Furthermore, PEMDAS doesn't capture everything that's involved here. Okay? So what we need to do is, if I was to split this, okay, we need to do this first, okay, and this second. And within that, we have 1/2 over minus 2/5. Okay, we need to do the numerator and the denominator also separately. So when we have something divided by a fraction, it's often best to write it out like this. And there's a few ways to view this. Okay, and this means reverse the sign. We're going to keep the first thing, reverse the sign, okay, and then flip the last thing, minus 5/2. Okay, this is the same as division by a fraction is the same as multiplication by its reciprocal. Okay, so when we do that, we get minus 5/4. Okay, there's no question about it. You have to keep this minus sign intact, no matter what you're doing. All right, so before I continue, before I put my foot in my own mouth, let me take a sip of the soda and make sure, so far, I'm solving this correctly, because I may have made a mistake. Nope, we're good. So then what we need to do now is add this part. Okay, so we have minus 5/4 plus a minus 1/4. Okay, and that's equal to minus 6/4, which is equal to minus 3/2, and that's equal to minus 1/2, or that's also equal to minus 1.5. Okay, all right, that's it. You have to give explanations of each step as you're doing them. All right, it looks like this answer space is a little too small, but you still have the rest of the page here as well. We could have approached this slightly different. Let me try to copy this. 1/2 over minus 2/5 plus minus 1/4. Okay. One of the first steps you could have done was converted all these to decimals. So what we're going to have is 0.5 as the numerator, right? That's that. How about this? Okay, minus 2/5, right, is the same as what? Is that minus 0.4? Is that not 40 hundredths? Right, so we don't really need this 0 here. Right, 0.4, 20 gives us 100, 20 of this is 40, right? Or 2/5 is equal to 4/10, so we can do it that way. And again, we can put the 0 in front of here if we want. 0 minus 0.4 plus a minus 0.25. Okay, so you could have solved it that way. This means this is slightly ugly because we have 0.4 going into 0.5. I like to move the decimal, so I'm not dealing with an outside number that's a decimal. So I have 4 going into 5. Okay, it goes in once, and we get 1 left over. It goes into 10 twice. Okay, I get 8. I get 2 left over, and it goes into the 5 there. So I get 1 1.25, and this was a minus sign here, so then this is also a minus sign. So what I'm going to have is minus 1.25, and a plus minus 2.5 here means it's minus 0.25. Okay, and I get minus 1.5, which was the answer up here, each of these. Or once I got that, I can then convert it to minus 1.5 if I wanted to, depending on what they're looking for. Again, when they have these questions, they're not going to put the answer thing here that they've done on many of the other exams. All right. Let me just look for check for a second. Okay, this is worth 2 points. All right, so that's really what they're looking for there. One was this division by a fraction thing. The other was you can solve it by using the decimals. There's a whole another way to do it. In which case the explanation is different, right? So here we have two valid ways that are at grade level, right? If they said using decimals, you can't do the green way. If they said only fractions, you can't do the red way, okay? They left it open so you can use either one. I use both because I like to double check my answers with completely different techniques. Yay! Okay? All right, so this was, if you use decimals, it's about conversion to decimals. It's certainly about division by a fraction. We even ended up with top-heavy things like 5/4 and 6/4 and so on. It's about simplifying fractions. It's about knowing how to use numbers. And it's even keeping track of this minus sign right there. That minus sign right under that mess I'm scribbling on. Okay? Because that's a big gotcha for a lot of students. That's so easy to get preoccupied with solving the raw numbers and stuff that you totally forget that there was a minus sign. And that's true even when I converted this here. Remember I took this minus sign right here and I drew this long line coming back over here. You have to keep track of that. You have to keep track. There was original minus sign there, bro. Right? You have to keep track of that all the time. All right? So that's the concepts going on there with that. And obviously the order of operations. It was mainly arithmetic. 58. This starts getting worth 3 points. Let me see. Let me give this a look-see quick. You know what? Because let me just read the question. Yeah, I'm going to toss this one into this stream. Actually, let me see how we're doing on time. We're 42 minutes. Yeah, let me just give it another read and decide whether to keep this one into this stream or not. Okay, yeah, let's give it a shot because I also once mentioned the example earlier with the y equals mx plus b. These are two straight lines, so they will have that form y is equal to mx plus b. This is not necessarily, so I'm going to square bracketize. This is like a sidebar comment. This may have nothing to do with the solutions of this. What I know is for tank B, it starts at 0, 0. Okay, so, and it seems to go through a straight line. We have to read what it says, but this looks like it's constant. So for this one, if I looked up 1, if it's 1 minute, I can end up seeing that looks like it's 1, 300. I could be wrong. Okay, so if that's correct and it starts here, then 2 should be 600. So if I go 2, yep, 2 looks like it's 600. So that's confirming that these are constant. Okay, so tank A, it may go up. It certainly looks like it has a constant slope, but it starts at if that's 700, it looks like it starts at 650. I'm not sure. Okay, and then this is the amount of water in gallons within each tank apparently, and this is their filling rates. Okay, so tank A starts at tank B starts out empty, and tank A starts with whatever this number is here. It looks like it's 650 gallons of water initially, and I guess the idea is because tank A already has stuff in it that it's going to fill at a slightly lower rate than the other. I don't know where they're going with the question. So on that note, let's start looking at the words. The lines graph below, so they are definitely lines, show the amount of water in 2 tanks that were being filled over time. So, right, we have time incrementing along the x-axis and the amount they're being filled going along the y-axis. Okay, so let's see what we have here. For each tank, explain whether or not there's a proportional relationship. Well, I kind of just did that already. I just gave the answer to that. That tank B definitely has a proportional relationship, and we proved it with the 1 comma 300 and the 2 comma 600. And we know from that that 3 would be 900. Okay, whereas we just can't pick up where we started from on A and say that same thing. We always have to add the 650 into it. All right. So there is definitely a proportional relationship for B. But let me finish. So for each tank, explain whether or not there is a proportional relationship between the amount of water in gallons and the time in minutes. There is for A. We just proved that with these data points and the observation. Okay. If there is a proportional relationship, identify the unit rate. Okay. The unit rate here is 300 gallons per minute for A. Right? For every minute, for no time, it was 0, 0. For 1 minute, it was 300. So there was an additional 300 for that 1 minute. We go another minute, there's another 300 for 2 minutes, which is 600 in total, right? And that's how we can get the 3 minutes would be 900 because there's a constant there, okay? And then it says use specific features of the graph to support your answer. So you can tell it appears at 1, it's 300. It appears at 2, it's whatever. And then for A, we can show that it's not showing that. Okay? You can still talk about A, but they're not really asking you to explain why the 650. They're not really asking you to figure out the point here and the point here and stuff because it doesn't have a constant one. Right? They're asking whether or not there's a proportional relationship, okay, for each tank. So B, yes, A, no. And then if there is a proportional relationship, give the thing. So this is for B. Well, there's not an equal sign there. This is for B. And for tank A, there's nothing. There's no proportional relationship. So there's no unit rate. Okay? The unit is gallons per minute. All right? And we're using the graph to support that mathematically. And then we're going to add words to that effect. All right? And then, by the way, in the case of this one, let me just change the color slightly. Let's use fuchsia. So this equation here also has the y equals mx plus b. And again, I keep mentioning this. It's not directly related to the question. These are sidebar comments. In the case here, there's no b. The y-intercept is 0. So it's y equals mx plus 0. So b gets thrown away. And that's how we have, it's just y equals mx. X in this case being the time. The time in minutes. Right? So it's direct relationship. Plug in an x, apply the unit rate, we can directly get the y. Okay? Plug in this case, plug in the time, apply the unit rate of 300 gallons per minute, and we figure out how many gallons we have. So there's a direct relationship going on. And that's what a proportional relationship is called. They're in direct relationship to it. Nothing else comes into play. Okay? So this is specifically about this. And it's formally known as the constant of proportionality, is another term involved with these kind of questions. Okay, let's see what else is going on here. Trent is fishing from a pier. Yeah, okay, we'll do this one, I think. Yeah. Let's see. How can we do this? He's on a pier. That's the pier. He's standing here. The tip of his fishing rod is here. So that's his rod. The tip of his fishing rod, and let's say this is the pilings for the pier. This is above water, and this line here is the water. So this is so-called sea level. This line right here. Okay. So it says his tip is 53 3/4 feet above the surface of the water. So we're talking about right to here. So this is 53 3/4, not inches, feet, okay, above there. And it says, the hook at the end of his fishing line. So if this was actually the line here, it'll continue down, okay, is directly below the tip of the fishing rod. So it's straight down. It's straight down. This continues straight down, okay. 12 3/4. So the amount of space right here is 12 and, sorry, 2/3. Let me just fix that slightly. That's 12 and 2/3 feet. So far, there's no unit conversions that appear that need to happen, okay, below the surface. All right, so the sea level, his rod is 53 3/4. Above it, the line which comes out of the rod and goes straight down, right, straight down, passing through the water and continuing. So it continues past sea level, down below 12 3/4 feet below the surface. Okay, so that's our visual of that. And remember, draw everything you possibly can. Write down as much as possible when you're solving these questions. Okay, Trent estimates the distance between the tip of his rod. Let me change the color of that again now. Let me use a darker color. Let's go with blue. The tip of his rod is right here. Tip. The tip of his rod and the hook. So that's going to be this whole amount. Okay? In other words, that amount here, from here to here, it's going to be the 53 3/4 plus the 12 2/3. Okay? So he estimates that is less than 65 feet. Is his guess reasonable? Explain your answer. Well, I think if we just do that without even including the fractions, we're already at 65. So I think he kind of made a mistake. Again, it's an estimate. An estimate doesn't need to be exact, but it's clearly that the answer must be greater than 65. Okay? And then it says explain your answer. So we actually do not need to add this up and get the exact value of this, at least at this point. Okay? All right? Might be nice if we did, but we don't have to. All we have to say is the whole number parts are already 65. So we know it's greater than 65. All right? And if you have any number sense, you should know that the 3/4 plus the 2/3, you can see that that's greater than a 1. All right? So the answer is actually above 66. All right? So you would explain all that in there. So let's see what we have here. Let's this hook drop another 10 inches. So let's change the color one more time. Let's use red. So it goes down another 10 inches here. Okay, and by the way, this is now inches, it's no longer feet. Okay, but there's an interesting thing. 10 inches is 10/12 of a foot. So we might be able to use this as our unit conversion and just be happy that it's 10/12 of a foot. Because to be honest with you, even though we have the 53 and the 12, we already have 3/4 of a foot. We have 2/3 of a foot. So adding 10/12 of a foot to this is not a big deal, right, per se. All right. So he adds 10 inches. What is the distance of feet between the tip all the way up here now to the new thing of his thing here? And then it says, do not round your answer. So basically now we have all three numbers. We have 52 3/4 plus 12 2/3 plus no whole number but 10/12. All right? So it seems to me it's convenient to convert all these into 12ths. So 3/4 is how many 12ths? That's times 3, so it's 9/12. 2/3 is how many 12ths? That's times 4, so that's 8. Okay? And this is 10/12. So 10/12 stays the same. So basically you can get rid of this column. Just let me make sure I did those conversions right. 3/4 is 9/12. 2/3 is 8/12. right? So how many 12ths do we get? 16, 17. We get 27 12ths. And we knew the number here. I think I wrote that rounded off 52. It's 53, right? Yeah. That's 65 and 27 12ths. So 27 12ths is the same as what? 2, 12, 24, 3 12ths. So that's equal to 2 and 1/4 plus the 65. And that gives us 67 and 1/4. Or if we want 67.25. Okay? This was not a question where we can convert these. Clearly, this is 53.75, but this is 12.6 bar. This keeps going. So we don't want to use this number that goes to infinity, 6 bar, to add it to this for this example. Okay? They're looking, it says do not round your answer. So they're saying there's an exact answer here, bro, and you need to give it. Okay? So that's what they're asking. You show your work. And then we end up with feet. So did we end up with feet? It's 67.25 feet. Okay? So there's enough work here. This was the 3-point question, worth more than the others. It was about mixed fractions. It was about realizing above and below. Again, this is about a number line. If you look at a thermometer at 0, below is normally considered minus degrees, and up here is plus degrees, right? There's little zeros of the degree symbol. I don't mean plus or minus 0, but plus or minus degrees. In a thermometer, if you put on its side, we have 0, and we have plus numbers over here and minus numbers over here. So that's all that's going on here in this whole illustration here. It's really just the number line. Instead of horizontal, it's vertical, right? So no big deal. It's tricky, though, because we had to do mixed fractions a couple of times. Make sure we're adding the numbers and just doing the conversions right. It's an error-prone process, so just take your time through these things. So we have mixed numbers being added. We had the gotcha. Some students don't know what to do when they get to this part here where it says another 10 inches. They're not sure what to do about that. Well, it's 10 inches out of a foot, right? It's 10 out of a foot, so it's 10 out of 12. Okay, we could have even converted because that's the same as 5/6. We could have done it as well. Not really a big deal. We still, at the end of the day, we still would have how to do this, and we were still up at the 67.25 is the answer, or 67.25. So the concept behind here was just adding mixed fractions and using numbers and being able to follow something up and down, if you will, and do it in parts, right? There was the line to the top of the water to where the hook was, and then from where the hook originally was to where the hook ends up. All right. So that's 59. My voice is just about to give out again. All right, this one's evolved, so I'm going to spin this off too. Let's see. This is the last question. Is that going to end up being involved? It's slightly involved in terms of it's multi-digit arithmetic. Okay, we're at 58 minutes, so I like to go an hour. So I'm going to peace y'all out, and remember to like and subscribe. So I'm going to add at least one more part to this, and probably 2. I might split up some of the algebra ones versus the other ones. I'll look at, I think there's 4 we didn't do. I think we did 6, something like that. All right, have a great day, and remember to like, subscribe, and peace out, people.